Coming up next on This Week in Radio Tech, David Layer. He is the Vice President of Advanced Engineering for the NAB. And David tries to keep track of all kinds of things that affect radio broadcasters, especially radios in cars, the new technologies that are available from Xperi and HD Radio, and just what we're doing about interference levels and what we can do to maximize coverage. That's all coming up next on TWiRT. This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you by Broadcasters General Store with outstanding service, savings, and support online at bgs.cc. By Broadcast Bionics with the Bionics Studio, including talk show control, social media, and visual radio. Broadcast Bionics brings exceptional audience engagement to radio and TV. By Angry Audio. Audio problems disappear when you get angry at angryaudio.com. And by Max Connect Wireless, prioritized high-speed internet service designed for transmitter sites and remote broadcasts. Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we're talking about everything from the microphone, like this one, to that light bulb at the top of the tower, like that one right back there. Hello, I'm Kirk Harnack. I'm glad that you're here. It's our 540th episode. And we just have a good time every week talking about technology, usually as it relates to radio. It could be audio technology, digital audio, older analog technology. It could be about microphones, speakers, streaming, digital things. Transmission technology often takes a front seat because that's pretty interesting to see how people are partaking of broadcasting and the content creation that we do. And so here we are. Glad you could join us. This week, we have a wonderful guest. I want to say just a little bit about our guest. I see this man at so many trade shows. He's invited to speak at trade show after trade show after trade show because he always has something interesting and informative and maybe historical, but he takes history and he relates it to the present and to the future. This guy is just really I think he's in the right job because he always delivers a good message for broadcast engineers looking forward to the future, either telling us where we are now or where we're going. And that, speaking about David Layer of the NAB. David, welcome into the show. Good to see you here.
Hi. You're too kind. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm not sure you were talking about me the whole time, but I'll take it. I'll run with it. So,
it occurred to me just before the show, I was looking through my electronic Rolodex here, and I realized I didn't have your phone number or actually your email. My email was memorized in my browser, but not in my electronic Rolodex, in my contacts. And I thought, well, why isn't David Layer in my contacts? And I realized, well, it's because I see you at every show, but we haven't been to a show now in over a year. So that's kind of weird. Talk to me what you're feeling about shows here coming up.
The first thing I'm going to have to say is if I'm in Kirk's Rolodex, I've certainly arrived. So this is great. This feels good. Thank you for that. So about shows, oh my goodness. Well, of course, I work for NAB, and shows are literally our lifeblood. This is how we, fund our outreach for the most part, is with our trade show revenue. So it's been a tough year for NAB. We're certainly getting our fill of virtual shows, though, aren't we, Kirk? We're getting many people to watch webcasts, this, that. But it's so that's been. I guess I'm used to that. I'll just jump to the chase here and say I'm really excited about October because I'm very hopeful that in October we'll get that whole trade show thing going again, and we should have a show out in Vegas for NAB, of course, and that we're concatenating what is normally the spring show, of course, with the radio show in October in Las Vegas. So I think we're setting ourselves up here for a great week in Vegas, and we'll see you there, I'm sure, Kirk. Right?
So I'm not sure I actually realize this. This is the regular NAB show and the radio show combined in Las Vegas in October.
Yes, it's the way that it's not combined as much as it is. They're consecutive.
Okay.
So if you go to the webpage, it tells you the NAB show runs from Saturday to Wednesday, and then the radio show starts on Wednesday and runs till Thursday, I believe. And the dates I'm a little I think it's October 13th and 14th for the radio show, and the 10th to the 13th for the regular show, or something very similar to that.
Understood.
So
what I just realized? I just realized, see, normally we would probably be in Las Vegas right now, wouldn't we? We'd probably be at the spring show right around this time of April. And this is a time of April when for years I have not been at home. And I've lived in this house in Nashville, Tennessee now for going on 16 years. And I just realized what I miss every year when I'm in Las Vegas. I don't miss it at all, but what I actually miss, my cars are covered in yellow pollen right now. They look absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, and people write on them too.
Yeah, you could wash me. And out in Vegas, we don't. I miss the air. I miss that desert air from Las Vegas.
I miss.
I don't miss.
I've been at NAB for 25 years. This is my 26th year. So I've been doing that. I've been going to Vegas twice a year for 25 years, and I added up all the days. And well, I haven't done it for a while. It must be well over a year by now that I've spent in Las Vegas. And that's just crazy. And I love it. I love Las Vegas. I always look forward to going there. I like the food. I don't gamble, so it's not because I want to lose money.
Yeah.
But I like to go out and have a good meal and see all my friends. It's great.
So we've got some cool things to share in this show. And, your position there as the Vice President of Advanced Engineering, and you deal mostly in on the radio side of things, don't you?
Yes, I'm the radio guy.
Okay. Which is why you're at all the radio shows that I go to. And, a lot of us engineers in broadcasting, we tend to think, for the last few decades, we think of the NAB as something that our general managers and our owners are involved with. In fact, one of my business partners was actually on the NAB radio board for some time, Larry Fuss. And then we look at old magazines or old documents, manuals and things, and we see things like the NAB broadcast cart. The NAB either developed or had a hand in developing the standard for the old cart machine. And then we go, well, gee, the NAB must be involved with other standard setting, but what exactly would that be? And it's not, of course, we can look back at decades of history, and that broadcast cart just kept flying up in my face from time to time, and how everybody used to use it. And understand now, though, that you have some technology projects going on right now, and you've got a lab that you're working with. Why don't you just give us a quick thumbnail overview of what you or NAB is working on in terms of technology for us, and then we'll tour it later on and see a presentation. But give us a preview.
Great. Well, first thing though about you mentioned the standards thing, and I think clearly in my mind, like the NAB card standard, and NAB did some other standards back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, I guess. I think it was a simpler time for sure. So, nowadays the technology has become so complicated. This is really now, when we work on standards, we're working with other organizations like the ATSC, or of course, NRSC is co-sponsored by NAB and Consumer Technology Association, but we're working on standards there too. So it's not so much an NAB standards thing anymore. I just wanted to say that. But as far as what we're doing in technology now, we're very focused on technology projects through Pilot, which is NAB's innovation initiative, and we're working with companies that you may not normally associate with broadcasters, more digital companies. We're working with Google and Facebook and Amazon and a bunch of other companies, and I'm not doing them. I should stop naming them because I can't name them all, and I won't do them justice. But through Pilot, we do a lot of technology stuff, both on the TV side and the radio side. Over my shoulder here, which shoulder is it? That one. We have built something called the Pilot Radio Testbed. And Kirk, I believe after our break, we're going to talk about that a little more. So there's that. We just moved that testbed into our new building here, which is where I am. It's at 1M Street Southeast in Washington, D.C. It's a beautiful place. It's more or less empty right now because of the pandemic. I come in a couple times a week. Other people come in too. I don't think we ever have more than 15 or 20 people in the building. But with this new building, we were able to move the test bed from where it had been, which is a broadcast engineering facility not far from here, into our lab. So we've got that going. I'm not going to pan around here to show you. Maybe I can do this. If I turn my camera like that, you can see. Can you see the racks over there, Kirk? I know.
I can. Yeah. Yeah. Looks like you're getting ready to move a radio station in there.
I'm going to turn it back. There we go. Hope that wasn't too disruptive. That is an ATSC3 television station, is what it is.
Okay.
I do believe it. I can't tell you hardly anything about it other than that. But that's another, another thing that we're doing here with technology. I am surrounded by some brand new ATSC 3.0 televisions, which we're setting up here in our lab to do demos with. So that's just a taste of what we're doing right now, Kirk.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I understand we've got a presentation coming up that David's going to take us through, and also a video kind of introducing you to the technology lab at NAB at the new facility. They got room to do it now. They got, and I understand that you've got involvement. You said that you involve other companies. You mentioned, of course, Google, Amazon, Facebook, but I know that you've also got other technical companies working with you to prove out some technical ideas, see what works, see what may be problematic.
Yeah. I mean, we're working, and we've always been working closely with Xperi, NAB, DTS, NAB, Ubiquity. And we continue to do that. And in fact, Xperi is a member of Pilot now. And one of our most exciting projects, I would say, is the project we're doing with Xperi to bring good radio service to Android Automotive, which is a new car operating system, not to be confused with Android Auto. That's different. That's the projection technology that your smartphone can use to display on the screen. Android Automotive is different, and we're working with Xperi on that right now. So, we work with a lot of tech companies, and then of course we love all our tech companies that come and exhibit at our shows.
That is a good distinction. I'm glad you pointed that out. That Android Automotive is different than Android Auto. Maybe after our break, you can tell us a bit about that at some point. Speaking of break, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, David's going to give us first of all a video tour of getting into the building and getting into the lab, and then we've got a presentation that David's going to take us through that he's put together for us, so that we can have a better understanding of what NAB is doing for us as broadcasters and some of the technologies that they're working on to help us ensure our longevity and our future as broadcasters. So I'm excited to hear about that. Hey, This Week in Radio Tech, it's episode 540, and it's brought to you in part by our friends at Broadcast Bionics. We'll be right back.
X-Screen 2, the simply amazing new way to control, screen and log calls using your Telos HX6, IQ6 or VX Talk Show systems, helping you to get the best calls to air quickly and easily. X-Screen 2 is a powerful touchscreen interface that connects alongside your VSET 6 or VSET 12 handsets, and even enables you to screen directly on your PC using a USB headset or sound card. X-Screen 2 clearly displays the status of lines and hybrids, quickly captures caller details for screening, and automatically stores a log of calls and easily manages station and show directories of important numbers. There's also a scheduling clock and chat window for instant messaging and visual talkback to other X-Screen workstations on the system. As soon as a line rings, the caller's name is displayed, if they've rung before, and we can look up their location. X-Screen also usefully shows how many times they've called before and when they last called. You can add alerts to identify nuisance or persistent callers before you've even answered the call. To route a call to the VSET or headset, simply click on the handset symbol, exactly as you would use the button on the VSET. Using the other icon on the line, we can hold the call or route the call to a hybrid. Selecting an alternative device will change the icon key so you'll always know the destination of the call. The tabs on the right-hand side provide more information and control the selected caller. We can add this caller to a caller directory or create a manual entry for someone we call regularly. Calling someone is as simple as just clicking dial on their entry. A free version of X-Screen is included with your HX6, IQ6 and VX Talk Show system. The full version of the software enables the caller database, directories and alerts and other cloud-based features. All Telos customers can try the full version for 3 months by downloading the free trial. More information is available by contacting Broadcast Bionics or your local dealer.
Thanks a lot to our friends at Broadcast Bionics for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech, and the X-Screen product, as well as their other products, are just amazing for content creation, for contesting, for taking calls, and for even doing visual radio. So check them out at bionic.radio. Thanks again. All right, we're talking with David Layer. He's the Vice President of Advanced Engineering at the National Association of Broadcasters. David, you got a new building there. I guess you guys are paying rent. So
yeah, we own it.
Why don't you tell us about it?
We're actually the landlord.
You own it?
Yeah,
okay.
We have 10. It's a 10-story building. The first floor is retail. The second through second, third, fourth, and half of fifth floors, we're going to have tenants. I think we've only got 2 tenants right now. And then from half of 5, which is where I am, this lab is on 5. Then 6, 7, and 8 are offices, and 9, and then on 10 is our conference center. So, and we have a parking garage that's actually, and we're a half a block from the National Stadium, the National Baseball team, the Major League Baseball team in DC, and our parking garage. And tonight's the first night, I think, or maybe the second time there's a home game at 7. So we're letting people use our parking garage for, I'm sure, a hefty fee.
Any problem with home runs or fly balls in the windows?
Well, no, actually, the field's oriented in the other direction, so we shouldn't have to worry about that too much. Maybe your stray foul ball, perhaps. It's great. It's a little tragic, of course, that with the pandemic, the building's mostly unoccupied right now. But we're going to come roaring back when everybody's back. We limit. I think the city limits us to 30 people a day, but I don't even think we hit 15. When we come back, it's going to be great. It's going to be exciting.
Well, with the vaccination rollout and the herd immunity, I mean, a lot of people are getting close to getting back to business. So it'll be interesting to see how soon you guys are allowed, to get that done. Why don't you go ahead and call for this video and tell us what we're going to see, and then let's roll the video.
You bet. So we're going to spend the next few minutes talking about our pilot radio test bed. And this is something I was given an opportunity to explain to the NAB staff at an all-hands meeting. And this video that we're just about to show you was made for that meeting. And I'll just say that this meeting took place on April 1st. So please keep that in mind as you're watching it. And let's go ahead and roll the video, please. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is the radio test bed. I thought it'd be fun to show you where it is. So I came out here on the street, and let's go ahead and walk up to the lab and see the radio test bed. Okay, let's go in. We're open. Working on the video wall. Oh, hey, this is great timing. Yesterday, they did a software update to the elevators to make them more high speed. So let's take a ride on one of our new high-speed elevators. Hello. Okay. He looks like he weathered it okay.
Hold on, here we go.
Yeah, that was fast. Holy cow. So now we're on the 5th floor. Of course, NAB only occupies part of the 5th floor. And that's the part we're heading to here. This is the Innovation Center. Gonna unlock the door. Come in here. Of course, over here, here's our studio, where Mike Kay and I'm sure others are going to live. And then here's the technology lab. And that's where we have the pilot radio test bed. And bunch of other stuff in here. I'm sure that will be the subject of a future meeting. But here we have Mike Rhodes. Mike, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Mike works for Cavell Mertz and Associates, and they're the organization that actually hosted this test bed for how many years, Mike?
2014, I think we built it.
Wow.
Before this building was envisioned, but it was planned, right. And so we said, hey, build something that we can eventually be downtown. So here it is.
That's right. You're exactly right. So can you just describe it for me briefly?
Sure. Pretty simply, it's 3 AM transmitters, 3 FM transmitters, so we can do co-channel and adjacent channel testing for either AM or FM, analog, hybrid, or all HD. And then receivers down here that can be changed in and out to do whatever kind of testing we need to do for
right,
those.
Right, sure.
And then the audio equipment that goes in the middle to make 3 radio stations.
Yeah, and I guess what, maybe for the last couple weeks here now, you've been upgrading it for us.
We have.
So just tell me a little bit about what you did to effect an upgrade.
Brand new audio routing system.
Yeah.
With Wheatstone.
Yeah, with that cool display, huh? I even got a close up of that.
And latest generation of importer-exporters from Autel for HD radio testing, and then a channel simulator that we can simulate interference.
Yes. Well, Mike, this is great. Thanks for all your hard work.
Sure,
and even though it's over here now, I'm sure we'll still be calling on you to come over here and show us how to use it.
What's not to love about being down here working in this nice lab?
So, okay, well, that was great. Let's learn a little bit more about the pilot radio testbed.
Yuck, yuck, yuck.
Well, that's a good segue. That's a good segue into your presentation, I suppose.
It is. And so if we could go ahead and put up the first slide, let's do a little more detailed dive into what this testbed's all about. So why does NAB want to have a testbed? Well, on this slide here, you can see there's a number of reasons. And we've used it. We want to support broadcast technology as it advances. And we have had an opportunity to submit a number of reports done by our lab into FCC rulemakings to help advance the technology. Another thing we had contemplated, although this hasn't happened yet, is maybe somebody else would like to use it. I mean, we'd be more than happy to make it available for hire. So, and if you go to the next slide, you'll see it's something that we have been publicizing. Cavell Mertz have a page on there. Kirk, could we advance that slide, please?
Yeah, let's see if there we go. Okay, Suncast.
There we go. So this is the web page that Cavell Mertz, I believe this is actually still up, where we try to let people know, give some details about the test bed. It's lightly used. We'd love to use it more, and so this is one of the reasons that we have it. So next slide, please. Here's a picture. This is what Mike was just going over. This looks like this was the old test bed, right? This is before the upgrade. If you go to the next slide, you'll see it's pretty similar. The audio system, that the way we distribute audio in the racks is really been modernized, and we're excited about that. We're excited about having the new Nautel equipment as well, which combines, I believe they call it the HDMC Plus, I believe. And so we're getting ready. This is still a work in progress. Mike will be coming back in the next couple weeks to complete the upgrade and do some tests, make sure everything's working properly. So next slide, please. This is some of the capabilities. We're set up with, especially with this new equipment, we're set up to do all the transmission modes that are available on HD radio. I expect that one of the tests we'll be doing going forward here is working on some of the advanced FM modes that Xperi has developed and has not done extensive testing on. So it'll be interesting to see if we can land some of that work in our test bed. I've listed here the most recent contributions. There's a new mode called MP11 for FM HD radio. Which was not originally supported, and we tested it. We showed that it doesn't harm anything, and now Xperi is rolling it out in receivers and on the transmission side. The second, probably more impactful work that we did was regarding all digital AM. We did interference tests in the lab, and Kirk, I'd like to just go ahead and spend a couple minutes explaining some of those tests right now, just to give you a sense of what we're doing with the test bed.
Sure. Let's go back to that double box picture, if you don't mind, Suncast, and we'll come back to the slides in just a minute. That all digital AM, I've gotten, we've interviewed Dave Colasar on our show a couple times, and I got to sit in the car at the NAB radio show in Dallas back what is that, a couple of years ago, almost 2 years ago, and got to hear that. I was pretty impressed. And Dave's Colasar is so excited about it. So what did you want to add to about all digital AM now?
Well, I'm just going to jump in though and say that Dave is amazing. I actually just serendipitously, I live in the coverage area of his station, so I can listen to it at home. It's a little far for NAB. We're planning to put a real nice AM antenna on the roof, so hopefully we'll be demonstrating that to people here at the at our new building. So, but if we could go back to the slides, I'll take you through a little bit more about what kind of tests we've done. Sure.
By the way, on that AM antenna for the roof, I believe your friends Dan Rison and Mike Rhodes probably know how to build one of those.
No doubt.
They can build a humdinger.
Yep.
All right. Sorry, Suncast. Next slide.
So this. I like this slide because it really illustrates nicely the principal benefit of our test bed, which is the ability. You heard Mike say we have 3 stations. Well, this is why. It's because we want to do adjacent channel testing. So we can fire up a desired signal, and then we've got the signals on either side, and we mess with the levels. We might mess with the carrier frequency a little bit, and this is how we do our tests. So let's go to the next slide. And when we were doing our all digital AM tests, what we wanted to do was listen to an analog AM signal and see if what the interference sounded like when the co-channel signal was analog, and then what the interference sounded like when the co-channel was all digital. That's the new service. We want to see what the co-channel interference impact would be on an analog signal. So let's go to the next slide. This is an example. It's a lot of stuff on one slide. But what you see here is on the x-axis, you see desired to undesired ratio. So on the y-axis, you see audio signal to noise ratio. And what we do is we'll increase the interference, and then we'll make an audio recording, and then we'll measure the signal to noise ratio we use a test tone, and we have a device called an audio precision. And so that's basically what's happening here. The top curve, that's what the audio signal to noise ratio is when there's an analog signal as the interferer. The other curve on the bottom below that, the 10 dB below, that's the all digital interferer. And you see there that the audio signal to noise ratio of the desired signal dropped by about 10 dB. Well, that's not very good. So what you need to understand is that this was our baseline test where we had no environmental noise simulated. So it was like if the AM channel was perfectly clean, this is the kind of performance that you might expect when you compared the analog interferer to the all digital interferer. But let's go to the next slide now. And let's just keep going here. I want to move through these, and that one's pretty much what we just saw. And let's go past this one as well. I just want to get right to the and one more, please. I'm sorry. I should have edited this deck a little more carefully. What we have now, that's not where we want to be. You want to go back a slide. And did I? What I'm trying to show here, okay, now what we see is when we add the environmental, it looks like I might have picked a bad set of curves here, Kirk, to really illustrate this. But the point that I want to get to is that when you do this test using the amount of interference that exists in the band, what you find is that at the protected contour of a station, there might be 3 dB of impact on the audio signal to noise ratio, and that's about it. So, we did this test. I don't know how long it took. Probably, we probably spent a couple weeks on it, maybe a month or two. But this is the kind of work that you need a laboratory to do, because you can't really properly characterize interference performance in the field because there are too many variables. And we get rid of all those variables, and we hone it down. All we're changing is the DDU, and then we can see what the impact of that is. So let's go to the next slide. I think that was, this is, this, you see there's an arrow on the top left corner of that screen.
Yeah.
I wanted to show this slide because that's shown back to the rack room. The test bed will live in the rack room, and we have pulled it out of the rack room to do this upgrade and testing for now. But that's ultimately what we're planning to do, is put it back in the rack room. So I think that might be my last slide on the test bed. Let's see if there's I forget what the next. Yeah, this is just a wrap up slide. Once it's done being upgraded, we'll put it back in the rack room, and then, like I said, I hope that in the near future we'll be working with Xperi on some FM HD radio tests.
You mentioned this new MP11 mode, and tell you what, let's take a quick break and hold folks over for this new mode that offers some benefits called MP11. I had not even heard of this until you mentioned it to me yesterday, David. We were talking with David Layer. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were trying to get my
Nope.
I thought you were trying to get my attention. So we're talking with David Layer. He's the Vice President for Advanced Engineering at the National Association of Broadcasters. And David is also the face of this department. You see him at all the trade shows when we have trade shows. And he's been doing, of course, some virtual presentations as well. So David Layer with NAB. I'm Kirk Harnack. This is This Week in Radio Tech, our 540th episodes. We're trying to learn what the lab at NAB can do for us and what they're trying to characterize so that they can make better recommendations to us as broadcasters, both for AM broadcasting, as we kind of look at this all digital AM mode, what we've talked about a few times. And I think more stations are looking at doing this as well. And for the FM, including this new MP11 mode. So we're going to be back in just a few minutes with that. This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you in part by my friends at Broadcasters General Store. And you know BGS has everything. If you think they don't have it, give them a try. It's amazing what BGS can get for you, even if you've got a little TV project. They have a lot of products for your television studios. But here's one that, it's a simple little box, but it's something that everybody needs. And yes, you could breadboard something yourself, but why would you go to that trouble when Hank Landsberg at Henry Engineering has already done it for you? Now, for years and years, for literally decades, engineers like you and me, we've used the Henry Super Relay, right, to light up those on-air lights on the studio, to start other ancillary things. Probably you have too, but I've wired a Super Relay to the capstan motor on a cassette recorder, right, to do our air checks, our telescoped air checks. So you would get a mechanical cassette recorder, you'd put a cassette in record, you put in record mode, and then when you turn the mic on, it would turn on the Henry Super Relay. It would light the light above the door that says on air. You might flash that light too, because flashing was built in, and you'd use another set of contacts to close the contacts for that capstan motor in the cassette machine. Am I bringing back some memories for you? Well, that was all made so easy by Hank Landsberg. Well, now there's the new version of the Henry Super Relay. Now, they still make the Super Relay, but in today's world, we're not typically switching 110-volt light bulbs out there in the hallway. We typically have LED-based fixtures now, and we have those LED-based fixtures that are on your microphone. I don't have one on mine, but a lot of us do. A lot of folks do in their studios. Well, the Henry Super Light is the absolute solution for that. The Super Light is a lightweight little box, and it's just awesome. Hank Landsberg just designed this thing to work just exactly the way you need it. 12-volt power supply plugs into it. It has the control going in. You've got several options on how you can control it, either with a sustained or a momentary. It's got a light built into it, so you can see when it's on or off, and it'll control an external light. It'll feed. It'll give you up to half an amp output, and if you power it externally, it'll sync up to 2 amps or pass 2 amps of current if you got several lights to run. Plus, it also has some regular relay outputs. It's got 2 single pole double throw, or maybe you'd call it 1 double pole double throw relay. So, hey, if you're still using that cassette deck and you got the capstan motor that you need to run, I don't think you're doing that. But if you did, you could do it with this Henry Super Light, no matter what you need to do. And it's got the normally open and the normally closed contacts. So let's just imagine that you have an audio console that doesn't mute the speakers when you turn the mic on. Well, the Henry Super Light will handle that for you. You can run those speaker feeds right through the relay outputs and do that. The other cool thing, look in the lower right-hand portion of this picture you're seeing on the screen right now. You can daisy chain a number of Super Lights together. Now, that doesn't mean they operate the same way. inside each Superlight, there are jumpers that you set to give a little address to each Superlight. And so if you got like a rack room where all your GPIO closures are for your different studios, you can just run you a piece of Cat5 from one Superlight to the next, to the next, to the next, and set the address, and thereby control several studios with easy wiring. You don't have to run separate wiring to each Superlight. You just run this daisy chain Cat5 cable from one to another, and it is so slick and easy. Now, there are other things that Hank Landsberg makes as well, and you need to avail yourself to this. You can go to henryengineering.com. Go look. If I got the address wrong, go look it up. Or you can call our friends at Broadcasters General Store, and they'll steer you exactly right. Hank Landsberg makes so many boxes that will help you get your studio really operating right, correctly, and most important of all, safely. Yeah, I've lashed up a relay or two to run the on-air light, and let's just say it wasn't UL listed. Well, Hank Landsberg does a great job of doing this very safely. You're not going to burn the building down if you use Hank's gear. Check it out at Broadcaster General Store at bgs.cc, or call them at 352-622-7700. And if you're watching me, I didn't have to look anywhere. I got that number memorized at Broadcasters General Store. All right. We're with Hank. We're with Hank Land. No, we're not. We're with David Layer from NAB. He's the Vice President of Advanced Engineering. And we were just about to talk about this new HD radio mode that has a benefit. David, why don't you tell us about that benefit?
Sure. And I'm just to recap. This is a mode that was tested in the pilot radio testbed, and it's called MP11. It's what Xperi refers to as an extended hybrid mode of operation for the FM band signal. And if I was showing you a drawing right now, you'd see the analog signal in the middle and the digital sidebands on either side. And what MP11 does is add another 25 kilohertz of sideband on each of the digital sidebands. So the digital signal is now 25 kilohertz closer on each side to the analog host. And gives you an extra, I'm saying 25 kilohertz. What I mean to be saying is 25 kilobits.
Okay.
It's a 25 kilobit per second extension. I don't think it's certainly not 25 kilohertz wide. So scratch that. Getting a little confused here. But this would allow, of course, a broadcaster to do more things with their digital signal. They could put another multicast channel or two on the air, perhaps, or reallocate the bits and provide some sort of other data service. So this mode had not been tested, and the pilot radio testbed, we stepped forward with that and we tested it, and the results were good. And Xperi is now incorporating this mode into receivers going forward. So it's going to be a mode of operation that one of today's receivers would not get those segments of the signal. But going forward, new receivers will, of course, and over time, you would imagine that most receivers would be able to take advantage of that new mode. But what I think you might expect to see is services. I mean, you can imagine somebody offering a service that uses MP11 mode and building some sort of data receiver which would make use of that. So it's just going to hopefully provide new opportunities for radio broadcasters to provide new services.
David, do you happen to know if that additional 25 kilobits per second of data, would you know if that needs to be fenced off and stand alone, or can it be added to one of the other sets of data that's being transmitted in the FM HD signal?
No, it's separate, but that's a good question for someone at Xperi. Kirk, because I'm not intimately familiar with the data structure to be able to say exactly how that would work. But it's a very flexible system, as you know, and I dare say that with 25 kilobits, you could do a fair amount with that. With not compared to internet speeds and that sort of thing, but for the one-to-many applications that radio is so good for. It's something that you could build a service on, I think.
Hey, talk to me for a minute about HD radio and the display that people get in the car. I've been actually, finally, we've been trying to wrangle all of my FM stations to at least have proper RDS on them. Now, none of my stations are HD yet, although we do have plans for one of them to go HD. And part of that purpose, we're in pretty rural areas, but people are getting new cars from time to time, and I believe there's more, and there's enough HD radios even in our rural area that we could benefit from this. And to feed a translator, because we want to feed a translator as well. Anyway, what I want to get to was the automotive experience with HD radio. I live in Nashville, and we've got a lot of broadcasters here, a lot of signals on the air, even in, I see it's market number about 44 for radio and market number about 29 for television. So it's not a small market. And some FM broadcasters really take advantage of the HD radio experience. I remember that when I punch into, for example, K-Love radio, you get a pretty good experience there with ART. Of course, they've got stations all across the country, and it's worthwhile for them to do that. But tell me about any of your efforts or dealings with automotive companies and getting that to be the best experience possible.
Sure, Kirk. And that's something that NAB is really interested in ensuring is that, radio remains front and center in the vehicle. It's a great service. Consumers love it. Any survey you look at is gonna tell you all about the popularity of radio. And car makers are really stepping up to the plate and building some really nice radios that have some really good features. HD radio is used by most, if not every, car manufacturer now. And of course, depending upon which model you get, which manufacturer you're with, you may or may not get it. These radios are capable of handling all the HD radio features. And what we're starting to see now, too, of course, and this is something I talk about a lot, is the introduction of hybrid radios, which make use of over-the-air plus internet. So these radios offer broadcasters a lot of opportunities, and one of my most important messages over the last couple of years has been to encourage broadcasters to take advantage of these features. For example, if you're an HD radio broadcaster on the FM band, then it's important for you to go ahead and use artist experience and provide, if you're a music station, provide album art or artists' images. Broadcasters are using these image features of HD radio to support advertising. We know how well the pure play streaming audio services are making use of images in their services, and broadcasters need to be doing exactly the same. And FM HD radio broadcasters have a good opportunity to do that with the artist experience feature. Broadcasters that with the hybrid radio, an analog broadcaster can enhance their presentation on the display with images by transmitting them through the internet. So an AM HD radio broadcasters and FM HD radio broadcasters can greatly enhance their services with the hybrid radio technology. So, but the bottom line is that the broadcasters need to do this. They need to use RDS, like you were just saying, Kirk, which is not going to do the images, but it's going to do the metadata, the song title and artist, or the station slogan, or web address, that sort of thing. Then, of course, with the HD radio, you've got all those features. There's something called Radio DNS, which is a nonprofit organization that sets standards for hybrid radio services. The Audi and BMW vehicles in the U.S. that have hybrid radio use Radio DNS, and broadcasters need to do something pretty simple. There's something called a service information file. It's an HTML file that a broadcaster needs to create. It'll have information on their station logos. It'll have information on where a streaming audio URL could be obtained if a broadcaster wants to provide that capability. Provide station information. All of this stuff is in the SI file, and once a broadcaster creates it, then these hybrid radios will show their logos. They'll have enhanced station information, and it's important that broadcasters do that, because automakers are watching. And if automakers put in a bunch of cool features for radio broadcasters and radio broadcasters don't use them, well, then they may rethink that strategy. So the real message here, Kirk, I think, is that broadcasters need to make sure that their content is not just audio content anymore. Their content is audio and metadata, and the metadata part's important. So that's the message I'm trying to convey right now.
You just described something that I guess I didn't really realize, that radio DNS, as you mentioned in Audi and BMW cars in the U.S., that the radio station is transmitting the contents of a file, this service information file. And then what I understand that the radio is going out through an internet connection that's in so many cars these days and more, and grabbing the art and other things that you made. Okay. And then displaying that as if it came from the radio.
That's as if it came over the air, I suppose. Yes.
Yeah.
But to be clear, too, I mean, radio DNS functionality is limited mostly to static information. There's other ways broadcasters provide, like an album art thing. And I'd be remiss in not mentioning the new AutoStage service from Xperi, which is now it's been announced that Mercedes cars are going to be using AutoStage. It's phenomenal. I couldn't do it justice by telling you all about it, but radio broadcasters should definitely be reaching out to Xperi to sign up for AutoStage. It's free, and it's just another way to support hybrid radio technology, and it has a tremendous amount of potential. And it's something that, again, just like with the radio DNS SI file, every broadcaster should have that. I think every broadcaster is going to want to sign up for AutoStage as well.
Wow, it seems like I hope NAB, and I'm sure you in future talks will help us navigate our way through these different things: radio DNS, AutoStage, artist experience. I believe in the next few weeks we're going to have, former colleague of yours, Steve Newberry. He's turned me on to Joe Marshall with Q, who's going to probably be our guest. So there's a number of things that engineers and programmers, station owners are going to want to be aware of to see what they need to put into their data stream.
Yeah, and I would encourage your viewers to tune in to hear about Q, because Q is, arguably the most innovative company out there in terms of monetizing metadata. So it's what they're doing is really groundbreaking, and it just falls into that same category as what I was just talking about with making sure you're doing a good job on metadata and artists and stuff. Q gives you an opportunity to do some really cool things with advertising.
I think you just perked up a lot of ears by saying monetizing metadata. That sounds good.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the goal, right?
Oh my goodness. Hey, one other little topic that we wanted to touch on is about electric vehicles, EVs, whether they're Teslas or somebody else's. I see a number of Teslas driving around here in Nashville. Just parked next to one yesterday. I stopped into a little cupcake shop to get something for my son. And anyway, there was I parked next to a Tesla, and we're wondering, so what effect do they have on reception of either AM or FM radio? And I understand you've got a little bit of experience with this now.
Absolutely. My understanding is, and I haven't done any tests myself, but we know that AM radio gets interfered with by the electric motors which are driving the electric cars. And some manufacturers are, correcting for that issue, and some manufacturers aren't. And when I say manufacturers, I mean auto manufacturers. And the last time I went to an auto show, which was, I believe, in November of 2019, was the LA Auto Show. I did a survey of car radios, and my survey included, I believe, 9 electric vehicles. Excuse me. 6 of those electric vehicles had AM radios. Kia, General Motors, and 3 manufacturers did not: BMW, Audi, and Porsche. And we have a lot of contact with Audi, and they've designed some great radios. And they explained to us that they are delivering a premium auto experience, and in their view, that the AM radio reception just wasn't living up to that, and that's why they don't support the AM in their electric cars. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the story, Kirk. I can tell you that we've been talking to Xperi and others, and we are very interested in developing some test data on how all digital AM is impacted by electric vehicles, because we know that the all digital AM signal is more robust to interference than the analog signal is. So it's likely that the all digital AM signal will work better in the electric vehicle, and that's something we need to establish, and we need to make sure the automakers know it so they can reverse course here and put those AM receivers back in those cars.
Gotcha. I don't know how you feel about it or others do. There's times when I want to listen to an AM station that maybe I listened to as a kid growing up. Maybe I want to listen. My dad, when I was a kid, my dad would go to sleep every night listening to WBBM in Chicago as we went to sleep in our little home in Winfield, Kansas. And I would love to be able to tell my radio through she who shall not be named because she's not she's listening. The Speaker of the House, if you will, that, hey, I want to listen to WBBM or WLS or WNBC. I want to listen to that station. And if it's available over the air, I'd love for my radio to be smart enough to feed it to me over the air. If it's not available, if it's going to sound bad, then I want it to grab me the stream of that. Is this kind of idea anything that NAB is interested in, or is this outside of NAB's scope of interest?
Well, this is what you're describing is how a hybrid radio works, Kirk. Mm-hmm. And I'll use the Audi, the hybrid radio that with this model year is now available in the U.S. And it just so happens that I did a test drive of an A4 about a month ago, and the radio of the A4 has 4 sources: AM, FM, Sirius XM, and online. Mm-hmm. And that online source is supported by radio.net, which is, I guess, a aggregator. And you can tune, any online station that's in radio.net. You can listen to it in your car. And during my test, my wife was helping me, and she's partial to Ireland. So we put up some Irish radio stations in our cars. We're driving around rural Western Maryland. So, and here's the thing, though. This online station that I have tuned to, I can make that a preset just as easily as I can make a local FM or AM station a preset. So you'll love this car, Kirk, because you can find that station you're looking for online and turn it into preset number 4.
That's good. That's really getting us there. I think. I sure do. That's good.
We're not touching upon the issues of streaming versus over-the-air delivery from the broadcaster perspective. And in the U.S., broadcasters are always eager to use that over-the-air signal whenever they can, because it's the most cost-effective way to get the signals out to the listening public.
Indeed. Wow. Well, that's good. I'm going to have to look up some more about the hybrid radio from Audi and make sure that my own stations are listed at radio.net. I'm going to have to do that. Yeah. Let's see. I think we've covered most of our things. We have some things about the NAB show to talk about right after our last break. Both the big show and the radio show that is almost concurrent right after. They have one day of overlap. So was there anything else you wanted to cover before we take our last break and come back with NAB show info?
No, I think this has been a lot of fun, and I'm eager to just say a little bit more about what NAB is doing on the show front. So I'll pick that up when we come back, Kirk.
Good deal. This week in Radio Tech, our guest is David Layer. He is the Vice President of Advanced Engineering, I should say, at the National Association of Broadcasters, working in a great big new building. And he's there's not many people in there, thanks to COVID. Hopefully they can all get back together because, hey, the NAB show is getting back together in October. This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you in part by my friends at Angry Audio. When I say my friends, believe me, I mean it. They make some cool, innovative stuff that you just need to have. One of them is this cute little headphone amp. This headphone amp is powerful. It sounds great. It has both kinds of headphone connectors on the front. As I say, it has country and Western connectors. It's got the 1/4 inch and the 1/8 inch tip ring sleeve for your headphones. And on the back, it's got just a great way to hook them up. It's got the Studio Hub standard for transporting audio, stereo audio, and power. So you can daisy chain these. And we use the word daisy chain. We used that phrase in the last commercial break, didn't we? Isn't that popular? You can daisy chain these, so you don't have to run individual runs to these. You can if you want to, but you could daisy chain the power to a few of these. You can inject power here, or you can throw the switch and have it grab power off of the Cat 5 cable that you're using. And this design with the nice smooth curves here, I know, I always say it tongue-in-cheek, it's hilarious. You won't snag your pantyhose with this headphone amp. This goes up underneath your audio, your furniture goes underneath the tabletop. And they're even nice enough to put these little rubber bumps right here. Maybe you can see them if you're looking. These little rubber bumps, so when you put your screws in, this isn't going to wobble or give you any trouble. It's just going to sit there and nice, just be held up there really nice. Also, these little feet, these rubber bumps, if you need to just set this on the counter, it's not going to slide around. So it's a great design, well thought out. You buy stuff from angryaudio.com, and well thought out is a phrase that comes to mind. The other thing I want to remind you of is Studio Hub. The Studio Hub standard, I have wired all my studios. We have 18 radio stations now. I think we've got about 9 studios. Anyway, wire them all with Studio Hub standard because it's so easy. Cat 5 cable, you just plug things together. Studio Hub, if you're not familiar with it, will carry balanced audio, stereo balanced audio, or balanced AES-EBU digital audio. And it just makes it a convenient way to connect from the backside of maybe some traditional piece of equipment, right? A satellite receiver or just whatever piece of gear you got that has maybe an XLR connector for the output, or maybe tip ring sleeve 1/4 inch on the output, or maybe even RCA plugs. And it takes those and it converts it over to an RJ45 connector. Now, there's no electronics here. You're not getting any electronics or balancing equipment. What you are getting is a very secure gold-plated connection between your device and a piece of Cat 5 cable. And Cat 5 is so simple, easy, and cheap to run, and you can make it look good. You can dress that cable nicely and easily, color-coded if you want to. Just makes a great way to wire things up. And if you want to use something that already has the male RJ45 on it, let's say that whatever you're hooking to is right nearby your node or your blade or whatever device has that RJ45, then you can buy pre-made cables that already have that there. So good stuff. It's all the Studio Hub stuff, the original Studio Hub factory and jigs and people who make it. Check it out at angryaudio.com. You can go right to the Studio Hub page. And when you call your dealer, ask for Studio Hub by name. They may have some other brand that they want to sell you. And listen, I really think you should go for the original because so much design engineering has gone into it to make sure that it really works well. angryaudio.com. Hey, we got to take one quick break for our friends at Max Connect Wireless, and we'll be right back.
I'm Gary Morrill, Midwest Regional Director of Engineering for Alpha Media. When I first spoke with Josh Bone about Max Connect, he told me they'd work great for remote transmitter sites where connectivity was a challenge. And he's absolutely right. We even have sites where we're using this as a backup to our STL using Max Connect's dual carrier option, and it works perfectly. We also have times where we need to be able to get out to a venue where it's kind of challenging because everybody and his brother is trying to stream video at the same time, like at a big sporting event. And you know what? Our data gets through every time because it's prioritized packet data. It works for us. It'll work for you. Max Connect. Check it out.
Gary and I are each holding our Max Connect Wireless 4G LTE modems here. This particular one is from Pepwave, and the one he was holding was a different brand. And it really doesn't matter, though, the 4G LTE modem. That's not the big thing. The big thing is what's inside. It's the SIM card that gets you on the Max Connect Wireless network. And they work over several different major carriers, AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, and you can choose your favorite network, and you get prioritized packet data on that network. Even when there's other people around using it, you get a priority channel, prioritized above everybody else except for first responders. So check it out, maxconnectwireless.com. It's spelled funny, so if you want to type it in, take note of the spelling, maxconnectwireless.com. Thanks to Josh Bone for providing such a great service, innovative, and it's what we needed in broadcasting when you can't get internet to your site or you're just doing a broadcast remote. All right, we got a couple more minutes here with David Layer, the Vice President of Advanced Engineering over at the National Association of Broadcasters. David, I believe you've got some word about a gathering in October.
I do. You know, though, Kirk, I have to chime in here and mention that on this radio testbed upgrade that we're doing right now, we use that Studio Hub stuff that you just were talking about with the XLRs on one end and the RJ45 on the other. And it's amazing. It's so cool. It really neatened up the rack. And we did some preliminary signal to noise ratio testing, and the audio signal to noise ratio through all this audio equipment is actually better than it was before. So I was a little surprised to see the audio going over the XLRs, but I mean the Cat 5, Cat 6 cable, but it's a big deal. So yes, anyway,
it does work well. Yeah.
So last word for me, though, I wanted to say a word about, excuse me, the NAB Show Premiere. And if we could put up my last group of slides now, we'll start with that first one. And as both Kirk and I have mentioned, I think normally we would be in Las Vegas at the NAB show right now, and we are scheduling that show for October. But what we are doing now is we're doing what's called NAB Show Premiere. It's free of charge. I'm pretty sure that you don't need to pay to go there. You go to the NAB Amplify site to sign up. And if they have a bunch of stuff here, like it says, the technical things I wanted to highlight, though, there were 3 technical things that I've put on my calendar, and I wanted to make you all aware of them as well. There's this HD Radio Data Services talk next Monday by Ashraf Eldenary, a guy I work pretty closely with. He's works with NAB in our NAB pilot projects, and he's active in the NRSC. A real sharp guy. I would encourage you to tune in and hear what Ashraf has to say. The second one here, Living on the Edge, Advances in Computing and Networking to Drive Innovation in Broadcasting. This is something I don't know much about, but it sounds like a very interesting topic, and something that it's probably useful for broadcasters who maybe don't know as much about it either. So there's that one. And then last but not least, there was the last slide here. This is a week from tomorrow, I guess. I believe that's the last day of the NAB Show Premiere event. There was something here on streaming latency. That's got to be something that radio broadcasters are interested in. So, Kirk, that's it about the NAB Show Premiere. I would encourage people to check it out. And of course, I would encourage people to start thinking about coming to Vegas in October to be with us at the NAB show.
You should be able to get some airline deals and hopefully some hotel deals. Do you have any idea what the hotels are doing there?
So I was looking. I mean, we're already supporting the hotel lodging information on our website, and I did look through it, and it looked more reasonable than normal, which you would kind of expect if they're probably lightly booked right now. So yeah, it's exciting. I missed at least 2 or 3 trips to Las Vegas last year, so I'm eager to get back.
Well, I miss the technology stuff. Of course, I want to see that, but I miss the desert air, the high desert there, and I usually make a trip out to Pahrump to see the crazy stuff. I don't go to the chicken ranch. That's there too. No. I drive right by that, and I go to see my friend Joe Talbot, who has the Pahrump Mystery House, where he has a large collection of telephone. By the way, I noticed that one of the speakers you mentioned was from Verizon, and I want to point out, and I didn't really know exactly what this person was going to be talking about either, but that, of course, the telephony business is enormous, absolutely huge, and broadcasters for 100 years have borrowed from telephony. That's where we got 600 ohms. That's where we get so many things from. And so, if the telephony business is doing it, probably broadcasters ought to at least take note, be aware of it, and maybe it's something that we can use to better what we do.
Yeah, and that was Verizon Media Services, I believe, was the company the Verizon person works for, and they're, I believe they're regular exhibitors at the NAB show. So
yeah,
I think that'll all be good. And again, there's another thing. Maybe you haven't been there. It's called the Pioneer Saloon. It's south of Las Vegas, and it's an old-timey steak saloon type place, which I would recommend. It's fun. It's not going to be your best meal on the trip, perhaps, but it's got a lot of personality. So Pioneer Saloon. Russ, I'll give a shout out to Russ Munchenk at Xperi here, because he's the guy who introduced me to the Pioneer Saloon.
Hey, hit me up with that website once again, where people can go look at what's happening in October.
You mean for the NAB show?
Yeah. I'm sorry, for the NAB show. Yeah.
Just NABshow.com. There it is.
Okay. NABshow.com.
The one-stop shop for all things NAB show.
All right, good. David Layer, thank you for being with us. David is the Vice President of Advanced Engineering at the NAB, National Association of Broadcasters, and he works alone in a great big building.
It was a pleasure, Kirk. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you for being here, David. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you in October. Hey, we got to go. Thank you for being with us and watching here on This Week in Radio Tech. We'd love to have you here every week. Tell your friends and tell your neighbors about it. By the way, coming up next week on This Week in Radio Tech, we're going to hear from somebody that we just love to hear from about, every year or two he joins us. It's Dan McQuillan from Broadcast Bionics. The topic next week is your console is now a table, like as in a dinner table, a picnic table. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Dan McQuillan always brings us great ideas. So check that out with us next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Thanks to Suncast, our producer, for keeping track of all those slides and videos. Appreciate that very much. And thanks to also to Andrew Zarian, the founder of the GFQ Network, where you'll find other great podcasts as well. We got to go. We'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.